Hello there. Last week I promised you a little bit of a experiment or a little bit of fun with kitchen utensils, and that's going along nicely. However, there has been a little bit of a feature creep with that particular thing, so it's going to take a little bit more time than I expected. So, in order to fill the gap and offer you the offering of content, I'm going to make a comparison of two things that aren't really comparable and maybe demystify certain product from AliExpress. And the one I'm talking about is this E13 crankset, or crank arms, or crankset really, and this $26 wonder from AliExpress, which is IXF Crankset, which I had for over a year, maybe 2 years even. So, let us begin. Before I start babbling on about this crankset, let me tell you a story while I'm going to rotate this beautiful item for no apparent reason. You see, a long time ago I had an XTR 970 series crankset, which gave me endless amount of grief because of the method the left crank arm was attached to the axle. Essentially it was the same thing that is currently used in the DAB cranksets and the newer XTR, which is a lock ring here, which is used to eliminate the play in the bearings, and this lock ring obviously is going to seize on the axle at some point and going to develop either play or be impossible to remove. Well, in my case it will be creaking all of the time. So while browsing AliExpress I found this little wonder, which was blue, obviously, had the correct length and cost $27. Of course, on the pictures on the listing it was beautiful, so I ordered it because I am a massive gear slut. This was the item I got, and I had it for 2 years and used it with success. IXF cranksets are offered on AliExpress on various listings in price ranges ranging from $20, at least that's the lowest I've seen, all the way up to $50, with or without rings, in 1, 2 or 3 ring setup. They are, if we trust the writing on the crank arm, they are forged, which is good. They are usually 170 millimeters long, which is also good, I don't mind. And they are built with the Shimano pattern of attachment of the left crank arm, which is the pinch bolt. Now obviously they are also available in variety of anodized colors. Mine is blue. When this crank was new, you could see splotches of the dye used to make this beautiful color. However, it was obviously was swept down with time. But what you can see even now, the crank arms are in different color. The bolt that's used to remove the play in the bearings and preload the bearings is atypical. It is M19, not M8, not M18 or M20, which is standard, which is kind of well, important, because if you're going to lose it, you are going to be having lots of problems removing the play in the bottom bracket. The crankset is meant for standard Shimano 24mm spindle. Here you have a bottom bracket, so it works perfectly. The crankset is 104 by 64mm, which is standard. As I said before, I had a little bit of complaint when it comes to different colors and splotches of anodizing here, but those were minor things and I didn't really mind all that much. However, one thing you'll notice even here is that the holes for the screws of the small chainring aren't really concentric with the posts for them, and what you can't see, those things aren't debarred, so this is really sharp edge, and that pattern continues pretty much on every edge that was machined after the anodizing of the crank. Other than that, this entire thing was faultless. So, what are we going to be comparing it to? Well, a few days ago I bought this beautifully machined E13 crankset in the same bolt pattern, which is 104 by 64. Now obviously, unlike the IXF, the E13 uses the BB30 spindle, which is one of the problems with this crankset, because obviously it requires a specific bottom bracket if I want to use it on the BSA bicycle. And obviously it has the same problem as my XTR, which is this crank arm is attached to the axle by a single bolt, and you are removing the play and preloading the bottom bracket using spacers and shims. So that's not really the XTR way, which is even more ancient. And of course it uses a proprietary E13 BSA to BB30 bottom bracket. Now of course you're going to say those things are worlds apart, and you would be correct, because the E13 crankset, when new, cost about, I don't know, $250 at least for the crank arms, and I'm trying to compare it today to something that costs $26. Now, what are we buying when we're buying something almost 10 times more expensive? So, obviously you are buying to this obsolete standard of BB30, which is going to cause you problems. You are buying to the inferior axle mount method, which is also going to give you problems at some point, because if your bottom bracket doesn't hold the dimension, then you're either going to have something that's very creaky, or you have something that destroys your bearings. Obviously the bottom brackets are different, and the bearing here is different than the one here, so replacing this one is going to cause much more trouble than replacing this one. I really hope it's standard, because if it's not standard then I'm screwed. Anyway, obviously if you want to install this bottom bracket, then you need a special tool, because the standard tool for Holotech 2 external bottom brackets is not going to fit. After all, they have a different size. Alright then, so this is the scale. Let's put the IXF on it. So, there it goes. IXF crankset weighs 669 grams. Let's add a bottom bracket here. That's 760 grams. So, obviously E13 is much lighter, right? After all, it is a high quality product, created with high quality materials by people who know what they're doing. So, the bare crank arms are 595 grams, 685 grams for the crank arms with the bottom bracket. So the difference is about, what, 100 grams? Less than that, 80 grams? You pay 10 times more for this product because you're saving 80 grams. Now of course you're going to say, but Tribo, this is obviously Chinese, you don't know the quality of this thing. And you are absolutely correct, I don't. That's why when I bought it, I assumed that I'm going to destroy it within a matter of, I don't know, weeks and buy a new one. But I didn't, it held beautifully. There are only two things which I have really against this one, and I don't know whether they were because of problems with the frame I've been using it in, which is a Scott Spark 40 from 2009, I think, 2009. As the axle is a touch too long, so I had to put a little spacer here to take out the play. And while it is not visible from your vantage point, if you take out the bolt here, you'll see that the forgings are slightly different for the left and right crank arm, and the net result is that the left arm is slightly more outward than the right arm. If you would see it on the bike, you would see that this one is more to the left than this one. Other than that, it has been flawless. And so now you should ask why I bought the E13. The reason is very simple. I am a rather tall person, and these are 180 millimeters long. And these are 170, and as I grow older, I'm starting to appreciate having stuff more tailored to my needs, even though it's just a minor thing, which is the length of the crank arm. And so there you go. The main difference between these and these is the fact that these are a centimeter longer when it comes to the crank arm, and a touch, well, longer, which is important to me and not necessarily everyone else. But considering the difference in price, I highly recommend these if you're looking for something that's both cheap and reliable, because they've been cheap and reliable. And regarding the story at the beginning of this video, those things replaced an XTR 970 series crankset, and I consider them an upgrade. They've been faultless for almost 2 years. Probably you shouldn't be using them on jumping to flat all day every day, although I'm pretty sure that's something that's essentially a big pressed forced Dior level crankset. They probably should hold fine, but don't quote on me on that. Anyway, if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Give it a thumbs up, that's always appreciated, and I hope to see you on the next video. And I hope I'm going to finish the kitchen utensils cutting board thingy. A little bit of post video. I just checked the bearing model on this E13 bottom bracket, and it says 6806 RS, which is a standard bearing, which means I can purchase it for $3 a piece just about everywhere. So that's something very heartwarming, because it means I can keep this bottom bracket running for, I don't know, eternity. So kudos to E13 for using something standard.